So, evening, y'all. How's it going? Welcome to another Lockdown Live chat. As usual, joined with my awesome co-host, the purveyor of all things Dracona Media, Mr. Alec Larson. How's it going, man?
It could have been better. I was watching Denmark in the Euro, and I was hoping they'd beat Belgium, and it looked like it was going to be like that. But no, it wasn't. We ended up losing 2-1. So what can you do? They are the better side anyway.
I told you not to watch like games before we do these chats. It always puts a somber vibe on when the team doesn't win. But yeah, anyway, so okay, in light of that dark news, let's go shed a little bit of light on our favorite topic, something we've had numerous conversations about, and that's public relations. Obviously, the music industry, it's the music business. It is a business, and one of the key fundamental parts of that is treating your band like a brand. And we couldn't think of a better guest to be joined with today than some PR royalty. We got the figurehead of Plug Music Agency, Mr. Warren Gibson. Thank you for joining us, man. Welcome.
Oh, thanks, guys. Thanks for the intro. Hey, pleasure to be here.
Oh, it's so great to have you here, shedding a little bit of light on this weird and fascinating world of marketing yourselves. So,
I hope I can help. I hope I can shed some light and just a little bit of guidance and advice for some up and comers and people who've been at it for years too.
Damn right. Well, let's kick this off. We always try to have. We've had multiple definitions of public relations. I found a new interesting one today. The state of the relationship between a company or an organization or a famous person or artist and the public. Pretty straightforward, like on the book reading face of it. But in terms of the metal industry, because obviously this is a metal show, what does that actually pertain to the metal industry? What is public relations involving a band?
Well, I mean, it's pretty much exactly what you just said, but it's obviously on a different scale and level. I mean, it's still making the public aware of bands pretty much and getting the bands as much exposure in various mediums as possible. I mean, obviously it's changing so much over the years. When I first started, it was all about radio and print media. I mean, CDs was very much, there was no digital, there was no online, there was nothing. It was all literally print media and CDs. So it's just really that. It's trying to, I mean, my main job is, and what I think is trying to get the bands as much as exposure on all various platforms as possible. Making the public aware of who they are.
Well, I mean, I guess in that sense, we've kind of spoken to a couple of other PR agents about if there's any ethical boundaries that you're willing to cross for representing a certain band or an artist, but we haven't actually kind of looked into what you as an agent would actually look into when bringing on a band as a client. So, are there any criteria that need to be checked off by a band in order for you to provide your services?
You know what? First and foremost, these days, I think at least it comes down to the music. I mean, honestly, it comes down to do I think that the songs and the band is worth putting my time into? Because can I swear on you? Okay, I put a fuckload of time into the bands that I work with. I mean, a lot of the time I'm selling myself very short because I just think the bands are so awesome. I'm working for basically peanuts because I just believe in the band so much, and I think they're so cool, and I think they deserve to be heard. So, I mean, obviously, when I started off doing this years ago, it really came down to, could you afford to pay me? Which was a big part of it, because I mean, this is my job. This is what I do for a living. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of the bands I work with, it's not their full-time job. You know, most bands have got jobs. This is my job. This is all I do. So, but luckily, after a very long time and lots of hard work, I'm almost at that point where I can not pick and choose who I want to work with, but there are certain criteria. I generally know after one conversation with the band how serious they are about it. If they're going to be worth me putting my time into it, because I do. I put 150% into every band I work with, so I deserve the best too. I mean, not deserve. I expect the same too from the band. Yeah, I mean, the cool thing is, and what I've noticed is, bands are more and more together these days. Obviously, things are a lot more accessible, and information is more accessible. So, yeah, I mean, I look for the full package, but it really comes down to the songs at the end of the day.
Definitely. And I mean, obviously, with someone like you, you've punched in a lot of time, you've built up a lot of connections. Obviously, now being in the digital media, it's kind of a little bit of a different dichotomy to how it was when you had those prime radio connections and those prime radio placements. That was very much an exclusive thing, because that's another big aspect about this. It is all about networking, and you had those connections at the prime time. Obviously, now it's a little bit different with things being digital, but in a sense, it's more just, it's not about having all of those major priority relationships with a major label and the other publicists intact. Now it's about just having a nice relationship across the board, where everybody that knows you and knows Plug Music Agency will know generally that there's a level of product that they're going to be getting. And that's...
Well, exactly that. I mean, like you said, it doesn't. I mean, it's changed, but it's still the same. You still need to build the relationships. It's just now changed from radio and print media. It's changed to sites and online media. You know, it's taken me years to build up the relationships with these sites. And I mean, I decided a couple of years ago with Plug Music. Obviously, I mean, I work with all genres. I come from a metal background. I am a metalhead. I love rock. I love heavy stuff. So that's where, and a couple of years ago, I reached the ceiling too. You know, just like any band in this country, you get to a ceiling very quickly. I can do the South African scene industry with my eyes closed. And I figured there's so many bands here. It's so accessible now with the internet. We need to start pushing these bands overseas. So I mean, it's taken me hours and hours and hours to sit and collect contacts and build relationships with media. And now I've got good relationships with the likes of Metal Hammer and Decibel Magazine and Revolver and sites and blogs worldwide. But it's a lot of legwork. And of the 100 emails I send out making connections, I maybe get 10 replies. Of those 10 replies, maybe 5 of them become good contacts. But it's a lot of legwork. And like you say, I think I'm at a point where if I send an email out to someone, even though the people might not like it, they know it's a certain level and it's going to be good. You know, I cannot guarantee, and the first thing I tell any band and any publicist who sells anything different is talking crap, but I cannot guarantee anyone anything, unfortunately. I mean, I can guarantee, if you're willing to put the money and buy advertising space on big media spots, then I can guarantee you features and reviews and shit. But just sending stuff out and pushing it really, like I said, it comes down to the music at the end of it. Especially with international media, these guys are getting thousands of submissions every week. So it does help to have someone like me now. So when I do send stuff through, it might not guarantee a review, but I can guarantee you the person on the other end is going to open the mail and is going to have a listen at least. Whether they're going to review it, that's really out of my hands. I mean, I can't promise that, but I can promise we'll put it in the right hands and push it.
100%. No, that's cool. Let's take it back to where these chats actually started, and that's at the beginning of lockdown. Lyle and I recognized that bands weren't able to play, and obviously the music industry and events industry as a whole was hit super hard.
Yeah.
So my question is sort of twofold. How was the beginning of lockdown for you? Part one, and part two. We've seen like quite a surge of new bands coming out and joining, like during this lockdown process and releasing material. So, how has that process been for you?
I mean, lockdown was terrible. Hey, like everyone else. I mean, we launched Mongrel Records at the beginning of we signed our first band, Rough Magic, in March last year. Literally like a couple of weeks before lockdown kicked in. We had this fucking kick-ass album which they recorded, which we were going to release scheduled, everything planned. The band were meant to be touring the album. They were meant to be touring Europe when the album released, which was meant to be July last year. So everything was planned out perfectly, and then lockdown kicked in and it fell to pieces. But that being said, we tried to use it to our advantage. You know, we did the best with what we could. Unfortunately, Rough Magic couldn't or haven't been able to tour their album properly yet. But we carried on, like you say, it's been super productive for some bands because there's been nothing else to do but sit and write music and put music out. So like you say, there's been a hell of a lot of good releases over the last year. And that's just because people have had the time, and that's the only place I suppose they can put that energy into. They can't focus on live, they can't focus on anything else. It's writing and recording. And luckily you can do it at home these days too. So there hasn't really been, it's had its silver linings, but yes, I wish it would open up now. I'm tired of this.
Yeah.
100%, yeah.
Preach. Well, I guess that kind of acts as a little bit of a segue. Like you mentioned, bands now tend to be a lot more sharper. They're getting a little bit more in tune with the fact that if they want to actually promote themselves, they need a little bit of external help. So I guess let's get into a little bit, not necessarily numbers, but hit you with a hypothetical example and get your professional opinion, so to speak.
Cool.
A band's pretty much been doing pretty well on an album. They've had pretty favorable responses. At this point, they're wondering whether or not to actually bring on a PR agent to either push the album further post-release or look into building their character profile a bit more leading into a potential EP or the next second wave of the next album. What would your thoughts be in applying a PR campaign? How long do you think a duration would be for a band like this, like 3 months, 5 months?
Yeah, well, ideally, I need to work on an album before it's even out. Most of my work is done before the album even releases. I need, so I'm talking now for future albums, obviously. So I need a finished product in hand from the band, album cover, final product that I can send out to media 2 months before the album releases. This is especially for your print, your Metal Hammers, your Revolvers, your Decibel, even some of the bigger online media. They need that because they're working so far in advance. They need that. If I send them an album the week before it releases, or even worse, the week afterwards, there's no way they're going to even listen to that. I can guarantee you that. So bands need to sort of start realizing that when they're recording the album, they've really got to be planning sort of, you can't put the album out and then come to me and say, let's push it. There is a certain amount I can do, but I can guarantee you've missed the majority of the media. Some of the smaller guys will get on board. Locally, South Africa, that doesn't really matter. Guys will cover it anyway. But my main focus is pushing the heavier bands internationally. Obviously, for me, South Africa is a very important market, and you've got to grow your grassroots too. It's pointless being a nobody here and trying to make it overseas, because people are also going to see that. You got to go there and say, look, we've done X, Y, and Z in South Africa. This is what we've done. We're worth taking a look at. So for me, I ideally like to work on a 3-month contract around EPs and albums. 2 months before the album's even out, I'm starting to send the album out. In those 2 months, we can be sending out singles and videos to start creating hype, pitching premieres to sites, and then the month of release. So I would say minimum for an album or EP is generally a 3-month campaign. For things like singles and videos, that's sort of on a month-by-month case. You don't really need more than a month to push it there. But bands just really, they do start planning ahead, which I find a lot of guys don't do. They come to me with these amazing albums and think about marketing budget, because they come to me, or other PR, I'm sure the other guys are on the same boat, with these incredible albums, but then they got no money left. And it's like, cool. So now what? There's a million bands out there with incredible albums who have got, in the old days, you used to be sitting in your boots in CDs. Now you're just a million artists on Spotify. So you got to get, so you think about marketing. Think, like you said in the beginning, a band's got to be treated as a brand. Sad to say, but it is. It's a business. And a lot of the things like times I get bands saying, the band's not making money, so we can't really pay for PR. Well, then don't call me, because this is my job. So, I have to charge. I do. It's what I do. But you also, I've been in bands. I come from playing in metal bands. I've sold my cars and sold shit to buy recording equipment. I've made the sacrifices. I've slept on couches and, toured with no money and for weeks and months on end. So I've heard it all and done it all. So I know the work you've got to put in to try, and it doesn't guarantee anything. but you've got to put that work in. Hey?
Well, it definitely opens up the opportunity on the bands themselves building up connections. The few PR agents that we've been able to speak to have mentioned that in the past. If you get a reviewer from Metal Injection that gives you a review on an album, give him a shout out personally. Say thank you, because they are humans. They like, they might be a really big project or huge company, but you know, that personalized connection, even post PR campaign, you could still reach out to some of these guys, and they might remember you. They might be like, oh, that
thank you goes a long way. Hey? Thank you goes a long way. Like, it's a simple thank you. It really means a lot. I make sure all the guys, I make sure if anyone has a premiere, I make sure they thank them online or social. Say thanks for the premiere in wherever it was, and you know, it goes a long way, and it's good work ethic, and it's good manners, man. It's like
really
100%. You did mention bands having to grow their grassroots locally, you know, and I 100% agree with that. But I'm going to hit you with an impromptu question that just came to me while you were giving your advice. Now, say we deal with quite a lot of guys that are solo artists, so they can't really perform, but I mean, the digital age is great in that sense that they can get their music out there, and you know, you can have a one-man maestro like churning out like really good albums on a yearly basis. So obviously a person like that can't really grow their grassroots, so to speak. So what's the do you think that's a hindrance in the sort of PR game to be a solo act?
I don't think so, hey, because I mean, honestly, for me, I'm not really dealing with the live aspect of it all. So if this one man solo girl, boy, whatever it is, has got an amazing album, I mean, that's what me or any other publicist is going to be pushing. And it's like I said, it comes down to the songs. Obviously, once that is out there and they've got the music out there, it would help if they can tour it. But we all know what the live scene is here like here for live music, especially for heavy music. It's very small. But that being said, it's pretty dedicated. I mean, it's small, but there's a lot of people who really love it. So for me, it's not a hindrance at all. Like I said, I'm not really pushing live music as such. And that's why one of the reasons why I don't say lockdown has been good for me, because I've taken a big knock too, because it's affected the bands, which directly affected me. But I mean, like we just looping back to the beginning, bands have been super productive over this last year. So that's really, I've had a lot of flipping fantastic releases come out over the last year. And one, I mean, Sundergeist, I'm sure you know Sundergeist, Rick Shields from, I mean, that's a one-man project, and it's an incredible album, and it's really, really good.
100%. So just following on from that, because you mentioned touring and tours and stuff like that, and I know a lot of guys tour locally and then they never sort of make a dent on the international market. So say a band was to start with the goal of being an international touring band, what is the sort of key thing that they should be focusing on? Is it something like Facebook likes that promoters look at? Is it more social, like Spotify plays and media press? Like, so what should a band be prioritizing if that is their goal? Even if they're willing to pump money into you know, the tour themselves, what should they be focusing on?
I think it's all of the above. I think booking agencies that obviously look at their social media stats. If they've got a couple, you know, that really helps, and streams in that too. But I think more than that, I mean, it's so difficult for bands, and there's so many bands out there that are so good with very few streams. I think the best thing is try and get onto a tour with a bigger band. Just reach out there and try and make as many contacts, mail as many people as you can. Be a pain in the ass. I mean, that's what Johnny from Rough Magic did. He basically bullshitted their way onto their first European tour. He got hold of, I don't know if I should be saying this, but I mean, he said it live on the podcast. I'm sure he won't mind me repeating it. But he basically got hold of festivals in Europe and said, look, totally lying, saying we're coming to play this festival, so you might as well put us on your festival because we're going to be there anyway. And then people started saying yes. And then all of a sudden you had to book a tour all around all these festivals. and then find the money to go. But that's what it does. It just takes balls and something like that. You got to put your neck out there. But it does help. I mean, Facebook likes it. Facebook is such a weird thing, though. It's a false sense of everything, really. I mean, I've seen, it's so weird because I just don't know how to judge Facebook anymore. I can post like a review I got in Metal Hammer, who've got millions and millions of followers, but I'll get like 3 likes. But I'll post a picture of my dog wearing a stupid t-shirt and get like loads of interactions and that sort of crap. So I think, do it like old school. Try to get your music out there to the guys you want to tour with, get to the promoters, send them music. I wouldn't say play as much as you can, but it's obviously become really difficult the last year and a half. But yeah, I mean, try to get your social media stats up because it does look good on paper. But you like we all know how you can buy likes very easy. So it's how true of a reflection is that of your actual fan base. Something like Bandcamp would probably even be more of an honest reflection to see what your sales and that are like in Bandcamp and what your because for me, I mean, I think Bandcamp is the best online platform there is. It's just the best for the actual artist.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, as much as streaming is a big part of everything these days, but it's a ball ache, and it is a rip-off. I mean, it is a total, and it's for everyone. I mean, people are thinking the labels are ripping off, but the labels are making as less money as the artists. You know what I mean? So it's Spotify, and they're ripping off everybody. I mean, the only people Spotify's good for is guys working for Spotify. The labels are also making minimal money from it. It's not like we're making thousands and they're fucking ripping the artists off. We're getting a small percentage of what the artists are getting. So for us to be, it's in our good interest that they're getting these streams and that. I don't even know what the original question was now.
No, that was
get out there and just do what you can. I mean, I come from the old school before internet, we used to make flyers and put up posters and banners, and there was no internet. I mean, there was nothing.
It was like renegade, get out there no matter what, guerrilla tactics,
Exactly,
like getting them in out there. Yeah, well, I mean, I guess because I'm not really done with the whole Facebook thing. It's a bit of an annoyance that we talk about it, but we do have a bit of a hypothetical question again. We've spoken again to a couple of. Yeah, really, yes. Exactly. Well, I guess there's a bit of a weird debate that we've been having. A few PR agents would say that by having a profile pic of the band, a proper picture of the band or the artist creates a little bit more of a personal connection with the fan base, where our argument tends to be if you have some really badass artwork, like the cover of like the Rough Magic, why not use that as your profile pic because it's a work of art? What are your thoughts on it?
To be honest, I've never even thought about that. So, I kind of agree with both of them, to be honest. I think if your artwork is striking and you've got then it's going to be as good as a band picture. A lot of band members are ugly, so it's probably better you have a nice logo or some beautiful art, so to portray. But yeah, I've never even thought of that question. Good question. I don't know. To be honest, what's more for me? I mean, personally, for me, probably a cool logo or some striking artwork catches my eye because I mean, bands, especially heavy bands, well, any bands really, they all look the same. I mean, you could put 1,000 pop artists next to 1,000 metalheads, and all the metalheads are going to look the same essentially. And so some sort of striking. Same thing with like death metal logos and that. They always end up looking the same. It's like. And I get why they like that, but I mean, I'm not wearing one now, but I've got them too. But I think for me, it depends. I suppose I would go with a logo or striking artwork if I had to give an answer.
Yeah, checked in.
Awesome.
But I mean, obviously, the personal. I mean, I do get where they're coming from, the personal aspect to it, because fans and audience, they want to feel like they're part of the band's life, or they're like, it's a personal connection. So I get that. I get why some people would say that.
But hence the debate. Yep.
Exactly.
It will never end.
No, well, there's no right answer, is it? Hey, I mean, it's whatever. Hey, it's whatever works for you, I guess. And that's what the whole everything's changed. I mean, I've been doing PR and that essentially for about 15, nearly 20 years. And it's changed so much in that time. Everything is different now. Everything is, there's no rules. There's no wrong way. There's lots of wrong ways to do it, but there's no right way to do it. As long as it's working for you, I think. And maybe, I mean, I've been my own boss for 12 years now. So I haven't had to answer to anybody for ages. And I just do shit that I feel is right. It might not be the right way. And I'm sure if I was still working at the record labels, the guys would be crapping on me and saying I'm doing it wrong. But it seems to be working, and it feels right for me. So yeah, do whatever feels right, I guess.
So we've mentioned like with the rise of Facebook that it's, and like other social medias and like digital platforms, and like just the whole modernization of the music business. It's easier to generate music. It's easier to share your music now these days, but it's also easier to step in a puddle of shit of your own creating. So we normally ask this of PR guys just out of like a sort of interest sake, and this is probably going to be our second to last question. Obviously, without dropping names or anything, have you ever had to drop a band because of a PR disaster? And if not, or like, what's the worst sort of behavior you've ever witnessed?
Do you know what? I haven't actually dropped a band because of, you know what? No one in the metal world, put it that way. I've had some people in the more pop commercial where non-payments and that sort of thing, where I've had to eventually like send lawyers letters and that. But I mean, I find generally working with metal bands and the heavier rock bands, they're generally very cool. There's a couple, I mean, one of my first rules is when I speak to people is don't be a dick, because I will stop working for you immediately. Don't bitch about anyone online. And I've walked into 5FM back in the days when I used to have to go there every Monday morning. Walked in there and like go to the music compiler and they'll be like, oh, what's this so-and-so said on Facebook that 5FM didn't play the new track, so blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, well, fuck, dude, I'm sorry. That's out of my hands. So my first rule is don't bitch about anyone publicly. Call them dicks behind doors if you really, really have to. But the minute you put it online, you're shooting yourself in the foot because it's out there then. So thank God, I must be honest, in the rock and metal world, I haven't really worked with anyone I've had to drop. The behavior, I mean, everyone's pretty cool, and they all wanted to work. They're all trying to work together, which is cool in this scene. There is a scene. People do kind of want to see their peers succeeding, because when I will believe high tides raise all ships. So it's good for. And I hate competition, and I hate it when people are petty and don't like seeing other people do well. And then talk down on them because they're doing well. It's like, so what? I mean, work harder, write a better track. Like these guys are working their asses off.
100%. I guess then.
So,
okay, Lyle, go for it.
I was going to say, like, as we kind of wrap up this conversation, I guess because we've been talking so much about social media, and we definitely will need to have you back in the future.
I'm not a social media king, dude. I'm like 45. I'm so fucking over social media. Like I do it because, like I said, it's a necessary evil, and my whole business really does rely on it. But I mean, if I wasn't in the music industry, I wouldn't have Facebook. I would be totally off of it. But I have to have it because this.
well, I guess with that in mind, for use of a better word, any final plugs that you want to make? How can anybody that's interested in maybe bringing on your services reach out to you? All that jazz.
Yeah, dude, I'm on all social media, funny enough, except for so much Twitter these days. I kind of forgot I had Twitter. Hey? And then I hadn't used it for like a year, and I actually got an email from them today saying, hey, Warren, we miss you. But I kind of find Twitter kind of irrelevant these days. I'm really Instagram or Facebook. You can find Plug Music Agency, or just email me, hey, Warren at Plug Music Agency, and take it from there. Send me some tracks, send me a link to download or some streams to listen to music. Before I do anything, I listen to the music, because that's really where it starts. Like you said, I like to push out quality products. I don't personally have to love everything I work on personally, all of it, but I can see a good song and I can appreciate a good track, whether it's death metal, rough magic, stoner rock, fucking pop, which I work with, hip hop, folk, whatever it is. I can hear a good track. And I still work with a lot of commercial and stuff to these days. I'm still sampling radio every day, still dealing with your regional stations and Metal Hammer and all the rocks also. So I do it all. And you have to in these days and age, I've got bills to pay. So
Yeah, well, seriously,
but
Warren,
I love it. You know what I mean? I like my job. I really, really love what I do. There's shit days like anyone else, but I'm still sitting here in my office, and I live in a tiny little seaside town in the middle of nowhere, which is cool. So, and I can do what I do. So I really love my job. I mean, I love the fact that I get to hear music before a lot of people. I get to discover bands and introduce them to the world. It's like if I get a band into Metal Hammer or so, it's almost as exciting for me as it is for the band. You know what I mean? I've been reading the Metal Hammer since, probably the mid 90s. So I've got almost every issue for like the last 30 years. And I always dreamed of being in there. My band, I always wanted to be in Metal Hammer. I was good. And now when I see my bands in there, it's almost as good. I mean, I get a fucking joy out of it. It's rad seeing cool shit. And I love my job. I love music. I mean, it really is. I don't know what else to do. I've tried to get out of it so many times because it drives me fucking nuts. But I don't know what else to do. Sorry, my dog's trying to say hello. Yeah.
Well, nobody does it really better than you, Warren. So for the sake of the South African metal scene and behalf of the South African metal scene, we thank you. We wish you best of luck with Mongrel Records. Obviously, the new Fangs VA is out. We look forward to the new Rough Magic and all of that good
we've got
stuff
some cool shit coming. We've got new Springbok New Girls. We've got new Fuzzy Gish coming. We've got new Hokum coming this year. There's some cool stuff coming here.
It's awesome.
Man, you just keep on rocking and we will keep on listening. And hopefully we can have you back in the near future.
Whenever, hey, Shot, let me know. I'll be back.
100%.
Awesome. Well, I guess on that note, Alec, what are you saying?
Well, I hope that was informative. I felt like I spoke a lot of nonsense.
No, it was perfect. Cool. It was perfect.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for that, sir.
It's been great. Thank you so much for your time.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sweet,
Alec,
guys.
what do you say? Should we wrap this up for another week?
Wrap it up, Lyle. Do your outro spiel.
Yeah, getting pretty good at this now. 1 week to go to our 50th episode. Warren Gibson,
guys, well done.
You are a gentleman and a squire. Thank you so much for joining us, man. And thanks everybody for tuning in. We will be back same time, same place on the interweb next week. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And keep safe, keep the social distancing. Hopefully all of this pandemic crap will be over soon enough.
Oh, God,
take it easy, guys. Oh, God.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Later, guys.